All right, well, this is an absolute honor. I'm Kevin McCarthy here with Jake Hamilton and Sean O'Connell. We're for the ReelBlend podcast, joined by one of our all-time favorite filmmakers, Mr. Kevin Smith, obviously here to talk about Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Kevin, thank you for joining the show, man.
So happy to be here, man. When as well as I do, Kev, that when I cornered Kevin at the Endgame premiere, and I was very excited to see Endgame. But I was more excited to see Kevin because I knew this story that I wanted to tell him, and I couldn't wait to watch his expression change. So when I saw him, I was like, dude, and I pulled him to the side and then downloaded that Affleck story and just watched his expression change, man. It was delightful. Thank God Endgame was great as well.
Kevin, for our audience, not everybody who listens to our show watches every single interview online. So
Happily.
I know you've told the story a zillion times, but do you mind just going through it again, just kind of what happened and the time frame of it all? Because the Affleck joining the cast didn't happen until midway through or towards the end of production.
Yeah, it happened very late in the production. We were about 2 weeks into making Reboot when Jordan, the producer, Jordan Monsanto, Jason's wife, she goes, have you seen this? And she showed me a clip on Twitter, and it was Kevin McCarthy talking to Ben at the Triple Frontier junket. And Kevin, historically, whenever he does interviews with folks who've been in the cast of my films, Ben or Matt or anybody, he'll sometimes, most of the time, he'll throw out a View Askew reference or something like that. And so when she said, have you seen this? And I saw it was Kevin, I instantly knew, oh, he's going to say something about the movies. And, oh, my God, it's Ben. So I was like, oh, this will be interesting. And so I didn't know what it was going to be. So Ben, Kevin starts by going, hey, have they called you? They're in the middle of Reboot. Have they called you for Reboot yet? And we didn't. We never called him. I never wrote him into the script because I hadn't spoken to him in 8 years. I didn't even think we had a friendship. I've talked about it in the press and stuff and never heard from him. After the heart attack, didn't hear from him. So I just assumed we were done. So when, I was working on Reboot, I was never like, let me bring Holden into the mix because I knew I didn't have access to that toy anymore. So we started making a movie with no Holden scene in it whatsoever. And so Kevin asked Ben that, and Ben says, no, they haven't. And I'm available, or something like that. So very positive, very encouraging. Certainly not him going fuck them all. I hate those pricks. So instantly everyone in our world, is just wait a second. Jordan, my wife Jen, Liz, our other producer, even Jason was like, you should reach out to him. And I was like, come on. You guys understand. That's just some nice shit to say on a junket. It doesn't behoove that guy to turn around to Kevin and be like, fuck View Askew. I haven't spoken to those fuckers in years, because he's a pro and he's there to sell his show. And so fucking, there's a game and you'd imagine he's playing the game, just being like, oh, they haven't called me, because he's not going to fucking go into a 10-minute explanation of I haven't spoken to him in 8 years and blah, blah, blah. And then after a week, they kept nudging me. And, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to tweet him because I don't know if any of the numbers I have work. So I'm going to tweet him. And I, wrote up this tweet. Let me see. What happens if I do this? I just don't want to lose you guys altogether.
This was the Conan the Barbarian tweet, right?
Yeah, basically, I wrote.
He drafted it.
A tweet where I was like, I said, hey man, we're all having fun back here in the past. Wish you were here, but post heart attack, I don't wish for anything anymore. I just ask. So, do you want to come down and play? I said, I paraphrase King Osric from Conan the Barbarian, and I say, and I put a variation of his speech where I said, there comes a time when the jewels cease to sparkle and the gold loses its luster and the throne room becomes prison. And all an old director, I said, wants to do is make pretend with his old friends. And so I was going to tweet that. And right before I did, I showed Jordan. She's like, don't do that. That's embarrassing. Don't tweet them publicly. She's like, try one of your numbers you got in your phone. I was like, I can't imagine any of these still work. So I picked the first one. I texted, I said, hey. And he wrote back, hey, with a question mark. I said, this still you? And he says, it is. And I said, who is this? And then he wrote, your father. And then instantly that sounded like Ben. Like that's, I was like, that sounds like Affleck. So he wrote back, I wrote BA question mark. He said, yeah, who's this? And then I texted back, this might be where the conversation ends. And then he put question mark. And then I wrote KS. And there's a long beat. And he goes, Kevin?
Oh.
And I said, yeah. And so right there, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Or once he has confirmation it's me, maybe you just don't write back. Or he fucking writes the speech he's been waiting to say for 8 fucking years, right? Like, I've been waiting for this, you son of a bitch. And instead he just wrote, how the hell are you? And I was like, oh my God, I'm good. I said, I was just about to tweet you this, but I'll send it here. And I sent him the thing. And then I waited, and then the little dots came up, and I was, oh my God. Because, you got to realize I hadn't reached out in a long time. I thought we weren't friends anymore. I didn't want to confirm it. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to think like, my old friend, he probably don't like me no more. It's another thing to have him go, I'm your old friend and I don't like you anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Man, that's heartbreaking.
I don't want that confirmation. So I kind of lived in ignorance being bliss. So, I'm kind of waiting and wondering what he's going to say. And then he writes back finally. I see the little dots come up. And he writes back, was it so telling you still think of yourself as a king? And it's this classic Affleck. I laughed, and then he said, I would love to come down and play, old man. He's like, where what are we doing? And I just broke down crying. I didn't even call him. We just kept texting back and forth. For all I knew, it could have been not Ben Affleck and some guy doing a great impression of him by a text. But I'll be honest with you, at that point, I didn't care. Like, it was such a wonderful feeling. You got to understand, like, I hadn't spoken to him in 8 years, and this is a cat that, the world knows him as Ben Affleck and shit, but like, this was one of the people that, like, I built my entire career with. He wasn't there for Clerks, but he was there from Mallrats forward, and some of my best stuff I did with him, and we were like kids together, and we dreamed together, and then like, his shit took off in a big bad way and stuff like that. And after all this time, I always felt like, man, like, didn't it mean anything? I always felt like, shit, I guess it didn't really mean anything. Like, cause even, you never check back in, never, like be like, how's Muse? Nothing. Like, so to have him like write back and to be in a conversation with him, and it was like, he hadn't missed a beat. Like, for him, he stepped out of time 8 years back and did his thing. And then when he re-engaged in the conversation, it was like no time had passed. It's a phenomena that you see the older one gets in life when you wind up talking to people that you haven't spoken to in years. You've heard it before. Like, oh, we picked up right where we left off. So I said, hey, man, if you want to come play, we're down in New Orleans. Like, we're shooting this thing. And he was like, all right, I'll come down.
This is something I was curious about. So the Damon sequence was obviously already part of the script. He's playing Loki. Now, was there ever any conversation with Matt about, hey, how should I reach out to Ben? Like, prior to our story happening, but with Damon, when you shot with him, was there any talk of like, hey man, did Ben go, or did Matt go, hey, call Ben, or what's going on with Ben?
Matty was a pickup day in post where we got Chris Hemsworth as well. Chris was working on Endgame and all the press and I guess other things. So we said, hey, we'll grab you in post. You don't have to make the trip down to New Orleans. Same thing with Matt. We'd reached out to Matt, but we hadn't heard back from Matt because he went like he took his family away for a couple months. He was in Australia. So I guess his agent was like, yeah, man, I can't get a hold of him and I know he'll want to do this. So like, just save him a space. And so we finished the movie, shooting. And then all of a sudden, like we got the call going like, Matt's back. He's ready. And we were like, oh shit. Like, all right, well, we're done and there's nothing left. I was like, but I can't, like, if he's free and he wants to be here, anybody returning from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is going to be good. So I looked at the script and there was something, I had to create a new scene for Matt, but it replaced something that we hadn't yet done. I don't want to give too much away, but because but so I'm desperately trying not to spoil it. He became an incredibly famous Band-Aid in the movie because we were able to like jump from one scene to another on his wings, literally. But I didn't know that I was going to use him as Loki. I was trying to figure out how to use him in this other capacity. And at first we were going to use him as Matt Damon because he played Matt Damon and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back as well. And so I was telling Jen, my wife, and she was like, why don't you use him as Loki? You never talk about using him as Loki. And I was like, well, I can't use him as Loki. Loki died. And she's like, yeah, in a movie. And I was like, oh, you're right. I was like, I can do anything I want, can't I? So suddenly I was like, that would be cool, man, because like the movie Reboot has a bunch of sequels to all the other movies in it. So you follow up on Clerks, you follow up on Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and we referenced Dogma, but not flat out sequelize it. So suddenly this gave me a chance to be like, oh my God, I could actually do it with Dogma as well and Loki. So when I talked to Matt, I was like, hey man, do you want to play Loki? And he was like, holy crap, I thought I died. So we went and found an outfit and shot at a church, man, picked it up in post. It was awesome. So, but long story short, yeah, he came after Ben. We shot Ben before him and stuff. So yeah, he wasn't helpful in getting Ben. But I never would have asked him either. Like those guys are like friends and I would never want to be like, hey man, what do you think Ben's thinking? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't think I would have approached it that way. Even if he came to shoot with us, I wouldn't have said anything about Ben unless Matt was like, did you reach out to Ben? And then I would be like, no. So yeah, it kind of worked out insanely well schedule wise.